Thank you for joining me this afternoon, and this will be part 2 of when will the rapture happen. And I shared with you in our last session about the fact is that the rapture itself will take place before Daniel's 70th week, or the 7-year tribulation, what most people refer to as this time frame. Even though, to be more accurate as far as scripturally, it really is referred to as Daniel's 70th week, or Jacob's trouble, or Israel's trouble. And it also is referred to in the scriptures as the day of Yahuwah. In our English translations, it's referred to as the day of the Lord, but in the original text it says the day of Yahuwah. Now, this day, by the way, is not a 24-hour time frame. The day of Yahuwah actually embodies much longer time frame. Some scholars believe that it not only involves the tribulation period, or the Daniel 70th week, but it also involves the millennial reign of Yahuwah. But the main part that we're focusing on, though, is the event referred to as the rapture, or the catching up of the church, because we have not been appointed to this time frame as the scripture declares. There's a number of verses that declares that the church has not been appointed to the day of wrath, or the day of Yahuwah's wrath. Now, some people want to say, well, that's talking about, eternal wrath, or going to hell, or being separated from Yahuwah. Well, that's involved, of course, but that's not what the scripture's talking about when it's talking about that we will not have to that we've been delivered from the wrath to come. It's making a reference to this time frame referred to of which I've already stated, being the day of Yahuwah. And now, we left off in our last session, and I was reading from my notes here, and I was reading in regard to Luke chapter 17, verses 26 through 30, and also Matthew 24, verses 37 through 39. And I had talked about the fact is that the Messiah, the Mashiach, Yahusha, told us that the time of his coming would be just like it was in the days of Noah and Lot. And I shared with you that he said that it would be an ordinary day, nothing unusual about that particular day. This is quite obvious that the rapture could not take place at the end of the tribulation. For the fact is that if you realize what's going to happen during that time frame, as I mentioned in our last session, that approximately 2/3 of the population of the earth, meaning about 4 billion, and I mean billion, not million, but billion people will perish during that time frame. So it's not going to be an ordinary as it is. When he says, it gives a description of his coming. The description that he gives is that it's just like an ordinary day. That as in the days of Noah and Lot, they were eating, drinking, giving in marriage until the flood came and took them all away, making reference to Noah's flood. Also, he made reference to Lot, that it rained fire and brimstone on that same day. In other words, judgment came, but before judgment came, they were taken out of the way. Now, in Lot's case, he was taken, out of there. In fact, the angels told Lot that they could not do anything as far as bringing judgment on Sodom and Gomorrah until they actually removed him. So he had to be removed from that place before judgment could come. In the same manner, the church, the born-again Jew and Gentile believers, will have to be removed from this place before judgment comes. Now, in the case of Noah, of course, he being a type of the Jews, or Yahudim, at least 1/3 of the Jews themselves will be preserved during this time frame. They'll be preserved through it. But they weren't promised that they would not have to endure the wrath this time frame. Only the church has been promised that, and those that have received the Ruach, that are part of the bride of Mashiach, they have been promised that they would not have to endure this time frame. But the Jews, or the Yahudim, and of course this is a time frame that the Yahuwah is dealing with them to bring them to a recognition of who the Mashiach or the Messiah is. Now, unfortunately, and sad to say, that 2/3 of the Jewish, the Yahudim, will perish during this time frame as well. But there'll be a third, a remnant of that Yahuwah will bring through this time frame that will be saved and will be allowed to enter into the millennial reign of the Messiah, the Mashiach. Also, any believing Gentiles that have survived the tribulation, that have believed on the Messiah and that are saved, will help repopulate the earth. But so with that said, just again emphasizing the fact is that deliverance came first. Even Enoch, that he was raptured or taken up before judgment came, before Noah's flood, is a type. Enoch being a type of the church, that he was taken out of this place or raptured before the flood came. And so the church also will be taken up or raptured before judgment takes place. So the Yahushua himself warned us to be ready. He said, for as in such an hour as you think not, for as in an hour as you think not, so shall the Son of Man comes. So, in other words, surprise, surprise, it's here. And that's the way I felt in my dream that I had. There was no time to do anything. It happened on an ordinary day. There's no real big event to give me alarm or concern that it was about to happen. It just happened. We'll pick this up on part 3, and so please share this with others. And I thank you for your support, and I love you. Yahuwah loves you. Until then, shalom.